The number one thing that people are afraid of in this world is public speaking. Stay tuned, and I'm going to teach you how to do it better and some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Welcome to the Balance Blade, where strength, resilience, and leadership sharpen our edge. Together, we are forged in the blade, and we lead with edge. Think of the last time you had to speak in front of people. How did it go? When I was a kindergartner, I sung the song "I'm Late for a Very Important Date," the little white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. And nobody ever told me it was hard to do that. I just did it. But if you asked me to do something like that as a 15-year-old, I might have been a little more scared. Now, I do have an advantage over many other folks, and that is I was brought up in performance. We're going to talk about that. But let's talk about why public speaking matters, because it's literally in everything you do. It's essential for teaching, leadership, performance, and everyday life. Whether you're teaching a class, motivating a team, telling a story, or giving a formal presentation, mastering public speaking is a game changer. Public speaking, from my perspective, is closely tied to the arts and performing. And many of the best speakers are also great performers. If you think about presidents, if you think about motivational speakers, many of them were musicians in theater or were on stage in some capacity. So let's talk about the different kinds of public speaking and where you're going to see it. Teaching. We see this every day. In fact, this is probably the most familiar type of public speaking. Now, motivating. Emotion-driven speaking to inspire action. This may come from a coach. This may come from a motivational speaker, but really similar to persuading, motivating is about getting people to do something and using emotion, whereas persuasion might be more of a logic. Storytelling, capturing an audience through a narrative. Now, all three of these things that I said so far and the next one are going to link together, because the last one is presenting, delivering data, reports, or formal speeches in a compelling way. Now, can you see how teaching, motivating, storytelling, and presenting can all link together? I can. So let's talk about that some more. There are different ways to prepare and present. And I'm going to tell you some ways that I've done it. But first, I'm going to talk through just those basic ways. So first is reading directly, right? You have a scripted presentation. This may be something off a teleprompter. For formal presentations, press conferences, high-stakes speeches, you're going to get precision, clarity, and professionalism. It can sound robotic, and you have to practice. I right now am not reading from a teleprompter. I'm reading from an outline. I'll show you what this looks like here. So when I make these videos, I don't read directly because I feel like I would sound mechanical, which is the next part, using notes or bullet points. So what I engage in is called guided speaking, particularly when I make videos. Now, for me personally, I could go off the cuff, which is the third thing, but I find that guided speaking, having notes, keeps me on point a little better, and it's a little less video editing later. So this is also good for teaching. This is good for business presentation, TED Talks. It has a natural flow. It has room for adaptation. That's the key. You just have to be confident to do it, and you have to have a strong grasp of the content. So this is my approach when speaking. Now, speaking completely off the cuff or improvised speaking, this is good for storytelling. This is good for motivation. This is good for debates. It can be a little higher energy. It can be more authentic. It's very flexible, but can become, as I said, disorganized. And that was something that I talked about why I use notes or guided bullet points. And the last one is memorization with performance elements. So things like theater, reciting poetry, competitive speech events. You're memorizing it so that you can then engage and put the precision, the clarity, the flow, the high energy. But you have to practice that. And this is where theater is really helpful, because the memorization one really engages the same skill sets as each of the previous three and makes you perform that speech in the same ways. Now, as a musician and a music teacher, I'm going to talk a lot about the role of arts in public speaking, because this is important to me. So, why performers make great public speakers? Well, first of all, we are good at speaking loudly, projecting our voices with a strong articulation. So, that's the clarity of our voice, the pronunciation of syllables, and so forth. We also understand stage presence. Additionally, we understand concepts like tempo, rhythm, and tone. We all remember Bob Dole, the politician from the mid 90s who spoke just like this and everything was about the same speed. When you hear no variety, think about music where it's just loud, or think about shouting all the time. If somebody is shouting at you all the time, you're going to tune them out. So great speakers vary the speed at which they speak, they vary even the rhythm of some of the notes, and they'll get highs and lows in their tones to make points. And as a musician, I've learned to do this more naturally. I don't have to learn it as it applies to speaking. I just have to apply what I already know. Performing in a theater and music taught me to be confident in front of an audience. I talked about my Little White Rabbit performance. I've performed countless times in countless situations for music and other things. Now, research shows actors, musicians, and other such performers develop superior public speaking skills due to performance anxiety training. And because of this, I was able to give one of the most important speeches in my life. And it was a sad one, but I spoke at my grandfather's funeral. Now, my grandfather was deputy superintendent of the New York State Police. He was a county sheriff and legislature in Albany. And there were a lot of very important people, senator, governor, those types of folks were at his funeral. And I had to get up there and deal with my emotions while delivering a good speech. And if I had not been a performer, I would not be able to do that. So let's talk about tempo, pitch, and pacing in speech. So if I'm trying to make a very, very important point, I might slow down. But man, when we get things going and it really gets energized and up, we are going to get super fast. And you also heard in that same thing, we're slowing down. Lower pitch conveys authority, and higher pitch really conveys excitement or urgency. Come on, guys, we got to do this. So tempo, the speed, and pitch, the high and the low, really function well together. Now, all of these things, when you add them together, is pacing, because sometimes you have to do things like pause for dramatic effect. And somebody that did this almost to the point of being a meme was William Shatner when he played the role of James T. Kirk in Star Trek. But that being said, he did accomplish what he was setting out to do. Here's a practical exercise for you. Record yourself reading something mundane in 3 different tempos, and then see which one you like. Now, if you are interested in learning more about public speaking, there are a number of different organizations and opportunities that you can think about, and real world applications. The first and most obvious one is teaching or coaching. If you're a parent, go coach your kid's soccer team or baseball team. Go volunteer to teach religious program at your church. That's going to get you going really quick, and you'll have a little bit of a margin for error. If you're looking to refine your speaking, an organization like Toastmasters might be good for you because they actually are working on the skill building of speaking. Instructing things like martial arts or sports or high pressure situations are going to help you work with confidence. And whether you're in high school or older, things like theater and performing arts and debate clubs are a great place, particularly with thinking quick and mastering stage presence and expression. So here's a final thought for you. Public speaking is a skill. It's not something we're naturally good at, and it improves with practice and intention. So let me know below, what's a public speaking moment that challenged you? And here's your challenge for the week. Find a way to practice public speaking this week in a practical sense.
All right. That's it for today, folks. Stay sharp.